My fiancée cheated on me with her boss for 4 years. My friends took her side. So I stayed quiet, then made one move that destroyed them all. I'm Lucas, 30, male, and until last week I thought I had life pretty much figured out. A decent job in software development. A late-night text from Harper, "We're better apart," sparked a suspicion I'd ignored too long. Nothing spectacular, just enough to pay the bills and fund my baseball addiction, a fiancé I was crazy about, and season tickets to my favorite team. Life was good, you know. Baseball's been my thing since I was a kid. I'm talking obsessed. My apartment looks like a baseball museum threw up in it. Voila. Scarves on every wall, signed jerseys in frames, those little collectible player figures that cost way too much. The works. I even turned an old stadium seat into my coffee table. Yeah, call me a man-child. I've heard it before. Anyways, I met a girl, I'll call her Harper, at a sports bar about 4 years back during Yankees versus Red Sox, one of the biggest matches of the season. I noticed her right away, a hot brunette in a Yankees jersey who seemed to actually know what was happening in the game. Not going to lie, that was like an instant aphrodisiac for me. She could name the entire starting lineup in their positions. I was in love faster than a solid fastball. "You're my kind of fan," she said, her smile hiding her deception. We hit it off immediately, exchanged numbers, and started dating. For the usual every game day, she'd be right there with me, cheering and cursing at the ump. For our first anniversary, she got me this signed Trout jersey that must have cost a fortune. I nearly cried, not going to lie. After 2 years, I proposed. She said yes. Everything seemed perfect. Our apartment became this shrine to baseball. Game schedules on the fridge, team scarves hanging everywhere, framed tickets from games we'd been to together. Sometimes she'd roll her eyes when I'd go on hour-long rants about ump decisions or trade rumors, but I figured that was normal. Nobody's 100% into everything their partner likes, right? Quick background on Harper. She worked at this fancy advertising agency uptown. Good money, climbing that corporate ladder like a boss. Her boss, Owen, was this stereotypical exec type. Silver fox, designer suits, Porsche, the whole package. He'd show up at company events and Harper would get all professional and giggly around him. I never thought much of it. Figured it was just office politics and networking stuff. "It's just networking, babe," she'd say whenever I mentioned how much time she spent talking to him at parties. "He's my mentor," she insisted. Her lie a seed of doubt I dismissed. And like the absolute dumbass I am, I believed her. So about 3 weeks ago, Harper goes on this work trip to Singapore. All expenses paid, business class flights, 5-star hotels, the whole shebang. Her Instagram was flooding with rooftop meetings and city skyline views with the advertising team. Meanwhile, I'm back home watching World Series games alone and texting her about the insane play she was missing. Her responses got shorter and less enthusiastic every day. The first few days I'd get "wish you were here" and "miss you." By the end it was just cool and nice to my excited game updates. Some messages were just left on read. When she got back, something felt off. The Yankees jersey she used to wear to bed disappeared from rotation. The games we'd planned to watch together suddenly conflicted with catching up on work when I suggested having people over for the upcoming rivalry game. She looked at me like I'd suggested hosting a cockroach racing tournament in our living room. Then came the night everything fell apart. We were at this overpriced tapas place uptown, her pick. I was actually excited because they had TVs and there was an important playoff game on. As the hostess started leading us to a table, Harper stopped her. "Can we sit somewhere else?" she asked, pointing away from the screens. "I can't handle another night of baseball." I nearly choked on my own spit. "Another night? But you love baseball. You've always loved baseball." The look she gave me, I'll never forget it. It was like watching someone take off a mask they'd been wearing for years. "Lucas, I've literally never cared about baseball, not once in my entire life." I just sat there, fork frozen halfway to my mouth, while my brain tried to process what she just said. The waiter awkwardly backed away, probably thinking he was witnessing a breakup. He wasn't wrong. "What do you mean you've never cared? What about the Yankees jersey when we met? The players' stats, the games we've watched together?" She sighed like I was some annoying kid she had to explain basic math to. "I've been pretending to like baseball for 4 years, she said, sipping her wine. "It was all a game," she admitted, her words a knife to my heart. 4 years? I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. But why? I asked. Sienna coached me, she said casually, like this wasn't completely destroying my reality. She thought you were hot, but knew you only dated baseball fans, so she gave me a crash course. Player names, basic rules, enough to fool you. Sienna, her best friend, the same Sienna who'd helped plan our engagement party. The one who occasionally joined us for games and seemed genuinely into the sport, another faker. So everything, all of it, was just... Harper cut me off, clearly impatient with my slowness to catch on. I thought you'd grow out of it, okay? Most guys have phases. Car phases, guitar phases. I figured the baseball obsession would fade and you'd start focusing on, actual grown-up priorities. That stung. Like what? I managed to ask. Like career advancement, financial stability, a house that doesn't look like a teenage boy's bedroom. You're stuck in a fantasy, she sneered, her disdain a blow I'd repay. Double sting in Singapore, she continued, twirling her fork like this was a totally normal dinner conversation. I realized something. Life's too short to pretend, and I want a man who wants more from life than watching sweaty guys swing bats at a ball. I sat there trying to process while the TV behind me erupted with cheers from the game I was missing. The irony wasn't lost on me. Is there someone else? I finally asked, already knowing the answer. Her silence told me everything. It's Owen, isn't it? She smiled, not a guilty smile, a relieved one. He gets me, she said, eyes actually lighting up. He has ambition, drive, a penthouse, a yacht. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And a wife, I added. Harper rolled her eyes like I'd pointed out some minor inconvenience. They're practically separated, and anyway he says I inspire him, that I have untapped potential he wants to help develop. I bet that's not all he wanted to tap, but I didn't say that. Instead, I just sat there, feeling like an absolute fool. So, all this time, I said slowly, you were just, tolerating me until something better came along. Don't be dramatic, Lucas. We had fun. But I'm 28. It's time to level up. Level up, like I was some tutorial mission she'd completed before moving on to the real game. Anything else you've been lying about? I asked, surprised at how steady my voice was. She actually had to think about it like there were so many lies she needed to sort through them. Well, I never liked your mother, she offered like she was doing me a favor with her honesty, and that trip to the ER 2 years ago when you got injured playing baseball. I wasn't stuck in traffic. I was having drinks with Owen, Jesus Christ. I broke my ankle and she couldn't be bothered to come to the hospital because she was busy flirting with her boss. I didn't say anything, just glared at her. Look, Lucas, this is for the best. You can go find some baseball-obsessed girl who will appreciate your enthusiasm, and I can move on to someone who matches my ambitions. That's when the final piece clicked. Is that why you pushed me to stay at my dead-end job? Why you always discouraged me from applying to better positions? So I'd stay exactly where I was while you leveled up. You held me back, I accused, her silence confirming my betrayal. Her expression told me everything. You're comfortable where you are, she said dismissively. Not everyone needs to climb the corporate ladder. The audacity. She'd actively sabotaged my career to make herself feel better about cheating? I think we're done here, I said, throwing some cash on the table for my half of the bill. I wasn't about to pay for her overpriced tapas after this confession. Don't be like that, she said, suddenly concerned about appearances. We can be adults about this. You've been lying to me for 4 years, cheating on me and apparently sabotaging my career. Which part of that is adult behavior? She glanced around, noticing people at nearby tables starting to stare. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene. That's rich coming from someone who's been putting on a one-woman show for 4 years. I stood up, surprisingly steady considering how much wine I'd downed to cope with this conversation. Enjoy your life with Owen, I said. Hope his wife doesn't mind too much. I walked out, ignoring her calling my name. My phone was already blowing up with texts from our mutual friends, all suddenly concerned about my reaction to the news. When I got home that night, I knew they'd apparently cleared half her stuff. There was a note on the fridge saying she'd be back for the rest later and that she hoped we could remain friends. Friends after this show, the absolute delusion. What really got me, though, she'd taken the signed Trout jersey, the one that cost me 4 months' salary, the one she apparently never gave a damn about except for its monetary value. "You stole my heart and my pride," I muttered, her theft fueling my resolve. I turned on the game highlights and realized I couldn't remember a single thing that had happened in the game I just watched at the restaurant. My brain was too busy replaying the last 4 years, looking for signs I'd missed. About 3 days after that, it hit me. I'd spent 4 years with someone who was fundamentally disgusted by my passion, someone who saw my excitement as childish, someone who was just waiting for a better offer. And now she was living it up with Owen, the Wonder exec, probably laughing about how she'd fooled the baseball idiot for years. Something snapped. Not in an "I'm going to go full John Wick" way, more like a screw this time for a montage moment. First thing I did was clean my apartment, then I hit the gym. Not because I wanted to get jacked to impress Harper, but because I needed somewhere to direct my rage that wouldn't result in property damage or restraining orders. The first day back was brutal. I hadn't worked out properly in months and nearly puked after 12 minutes on the treadmill. But it felt good to focus on something physical instead of replaying her betrayal in my head for the millionth time. The next big step was work. See, I'd been coasting at my software development job for years. It wasn't bad, decent pay, okay benefits, easy workload, but I wasn't growing. Turns out I'd been sitting on a job offer from our competitor for weeks. Better pay, better position, a chance to work on projects I actually cared about. I'd been hesitating because Harper said changing jobs would be destabilizing for our future plans. Our future plans? Hilarious in retrospect. I called my boss the next morning. "Hey Marcus, that position's still open at Horizon Innovations?" There was a pause. "Yeah, but I thought you weren't interested." "Changed my mind. I'll take it just like that. What about what you said about stability?" he asked. That was someone else talking through me. I said, "I want the job." "I'm breaking free," I told him, my ambition reignited. 3 weeks later, I was starting fresh at a company that actually valued innovation. My salary jumped by 35%, and I had actual responsibility instead of just debugging other people's code all day. Then came the apartment situation. Our lease was almost up anyway. Instead of renewing, I found this sleek loft in Midtown, floor-to-ceiling windows, walking distance to the ballpark. It cost more, but with my new salary, I could swing it. The new place had 0 memories of Harper, no arguments about baseball posters being immature, no compromising on the aesthetic. I'd decorated it exactly how I wanted. Framed vintage jerseys on the walls, proper display cases for my collectibles, and a massive TV perfectly positioned for game viewing. The new job came with a signing bonus that made my eyes water. After putting most of it away like a responsible adult, something Harper never thought I could be, I treated myself to the car I'd always wanted, a sleek silver BMW M4. Not quite Owen's Porsche, but unlike his, mine wasn't compensating for a failing marriage and midlife crisis. That car, man. The first time I got behind the wheel, windows down, system blasting, I actually felt okay. Okay, not great yet, but okay. Like, maybe my life wasn't over just because some manipulative woman had decided I wasn't part of her level-up plan. The funny thing about making positive changes, they start to compound. I was sleeping better because of the gym. Sleeping better meant more energy for work. Doing well at work boosted my confidence. Higher confidence made me more social. It wasn't an overnight transformation. I still had nights where I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering how I could have been so blind, but slowly things improved. 8 months flew by. The new job was crushing it. I'd already been promoted to project manager, the new apartment had become home, the new car turned heads. I'd even started dating casually, nothing serious, just enjoying the company of women who were upfront about who they were and what they wanted. I'd also reconnected with my actual friends, guys from my rec baseball league who'd always been cool but I'd neglected because Harper thought they were not ambitious enough. Translation, they didn't have rich bosses she could upgrade to. The funny thing about success, it travels fast, especially in this social media age. I wasn't posting much, just occasional updates, the view from my loft, a selfie at the ballpark, and the premium seats my new salary could afford, in the car with the caption, "New Beginnings." Nothing directly aimed at Harper or her crowd, but enough to show I wasn't curled up in a ball crying. Then came a text from Sienna. "Wow, someone's doing well. Coffee sometime? Would love to catch up." You're back for scraps, I thought. Her opportunism, a chance for revenge. Interesting timing, Sienna. Very interesting indeed. I'd been ignoring her messages for months. After that night at the tapas place, she'd sent dozens of texts. "Harper was wrong to do that to you. I never knew it went that far with Owen. You deserve better." All lies, of course. She'd been the architect of the whole deception, coaching Harper on how to manipulate me from day one. But suddenly, now that I appeared to be doing well, she was interested in catching up. My first instinct was to tell her to go to hell. That would have been the healthy response. But something stopped me. Call it petty, call it the desire for closure, whatever. I was curious about what she was up to, so I agreed to meet, more out of curiosity than anything else. The cafe she suggested happened to be right next to the dealership where I'd bought my car. Subtle. I got there 20 minutes late deliberately and spotted her immediately. Sienna had always been attractive, in that Instagram model kind of way, all contour and filter-ready angles. Today, she looked like she'd spent hours getting ready for casual coffee designer everything. Hair and nails freshly done, enough perfume to choke a horse. "Lucas. Oh my God, you look amazing," she said, air-kissing both cheeks. "This new job must be treating you well?" "It's all right," I said, downplaying everything. "How's life? How's Harper?" The slightest flinch. "Interesting. Oh, you know she's fine. Things with Owen are progressing." The way she said progressing carried enough subtext to fill a novel. "That's great," I lied. "I'm happy for her." Sienna's eyes kept darting to my wrist, checking for expensive watches, my jacket, designer or not, and occasionally to the parking lot where my car was visible. "Are you seeing anyone?" she asked, leaning forward, cleavage strategically positioned. "A successful guy like you must have options." And that's when the pieces clicked together. Sienna wasn't here to catch up. She wasn't here to apologize. She was here to scope out if I'd become a viable option now that I had money and status. Which meant one thing: things with Harper and Owen weren't so rosy after all. I smiled and took a sip of my coffee, mentally calculating just how far I was willing to take this, because suddenly a plan was forming. "Actually, Sienna, I could use your insight on something. Let's play your game," I thought, setting my trap. The game was about to get interesting. Turns out Sienna was a goddamned goldmine of information. All it took was some strategic compliments, a few subtle hints about my investment portfolio, and suddenly she couldn't stop talking. Like, seriously, couldn't stop. It was almost too easy. Between us, she whispered over her fourth free latte. I was keeping count. "Things aren't great with Harper and Owen." "No," I asked, trying to sound surprised while mentally high-fiving myself. I'd suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed was chef's kiss. Sienna leaned in so close I could count her individual eyelash extensions. The wife won't divorce him. Something about a prenup that would leave him basically broke. So, he's stringing Harper along with promises. "That must be hard for her," I said, practicing what I call my concerned but not too concerned face. Years of watching baseball umps make bad calls had prepared me well for faking appropriate reactions. "She's managing," Sienna said, her smile with this predatory edge that reminded me of a shark circling chum. But honestly, I told her she jumped ship too soon. I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "Well, look at you now." She gestured vaguely at my entire existence, the designer watch I treated myself to. If she'd waited a few months, that's when I really understood. These women weren't just gold diggers. They were bad investors selling low, trying to buy high. They developed this whole system with Sienna as the scout and Harper as the closer. Sienna would find potential targets, help Harper set the hook. Then they'd both enjoy the benefits of Harper's relationships until something better came along. Of course, then they'd just move on to the next sucker. "You know what's funny, Sienna? I swirled my coffee. I always thought you were the smarter one between you two. Her eyes lit up like I just handed her a winning lottery ticket. Flattery? It's like catnip for narcissists. I mean, you saw potential in me before she did, right? You were the one who coached her about baseball to help her land me. Sienna actually preened. I've always been good at spotting opportunities. That's exactly what I need right now, I said, lowering my voice conspiratorially. Someone with your insight. So began what I can only describe as the weirdest reconnaissance operation of all time. Over the next few weeks, Sienna and I developed a friendship. Coffee dates became dinner dates. Dinner dates became drinks at my place. Was careful, always friendly, never crossing lines, but dropping enough hints to keep her interested. Every time we met, I'd leave some evidence of my success visible. Investment paperwork accidentally left on the coffee table, browser tabs showing luxury vacation destinations, a brochure for a yacht club, all props in an elaborate game of deception that honestly made me feel gross, but also, I don't know, vindicated. And boy, did Sienna deliver the goods. First, I learned that Harper had moved into Owen's penthouse, but was relegated to the guest room whenever his wife made surprise visits, which was increasingly often. Apparently, Mrs. Owen, Abigail, I learned, wasn't as clueless as everyone thought. She'd hired a private investigator months ago and was building a case to void their prenup on grounds of infidelity. It's so humiliating for Harper, Sienna confided, clearly enjoying her friend's misfortune a little too much. She has to hide in the guest room like some dirty secret while Abigail makes a show of checking the master bathroom for forgotten items. Once she had to hide in a closet for 3 hours. Also, Owen had promised Harper a vice president position at the company, but it kept mysteriously being delayed. First it was next quarter, then after the board meeting, then once the restructuring settles. Meanwhile, she'd already told everyone in her social circle about her big promotion. She'd even ordered new business cards that she couldn't use. She's getting desperate, Sienna smirked, maxed out 4 credit cards, trying to keep up with Owen's lifestyle. Designer clothes, fancy restaurants, weekend trips, and the penthouse doesn't come cheap. He makes her pay her share of expenses. She's drowning in debt, Sienna gloated, her betrayal of Harper my leverage. That didn't surprise me. Harper had always been image-obsessed, even when we were together. What did surprise me was learning she'd borrowed money from Sienna to cover last month's expenses. She promised to pay me back after her promotion, Sienna said, rolling her eyes. I'm starting to think that's never happening. But the most valuable intel came when Sienna let slip about the event Owen was hosting. This huge charity gala next month, she said. Sounds fancy, I said, pretending to be only mildly interested. It's the social event of the season, Sienna emphasized. Owen is finally going to introduce Harper as his partner, professionally and personally. He's even telling his wife they're separating right before the gala. Sounds like a big deal, I said. It's her moment, Sienna confirmed. She's been planning for weeks, bought a dress that cost more than my rent. This is her official entry into the world she's always wanted. I nodded thoughtfully. I'm happy for her. Are you, though? Sienna asked, after everything she did. I shrugged, going for nonchalant. Water under the bridge. We all move on, right? Sienna studied me for a moment, then tilted her head. You know, I could probably get you an invitation as my +1. Bingo! Exactly what I'd been angling for. Wouldn't that be awkward? I asked, already knowing I'd accept. Please, Sienna waved dismissively. It would show how mature you are, how you've moved on to bigger and better things. She not so subtly glanced around my loft, lingering on the 85-inch OLED TV and the framed vintage jersey that had cost me a small fortune. Besides, wouldn't it be satisfying to let her see exactly what she gave up? I pretended to consider it. I don't know. Trust me, Sienna said, touching my arm with perfectly manicured nails. It would be the perfect closure for both of you. Closure, right. That's totally what I was after. All right, I finally agreed. But I'm not dressing up as a baseball player or anything. Those days are behind me. Sienna laughed like I'd said the funniest thing ever. Oh, Lucas, you're so much more than baseball now. If only she knew how right she was. I called my baseball buddy Ethan, who works IT at Harper's company, and asked if he could access company servers. He was hesitant when I explained I needed Harper's messages with Sienna. Dude, that's technically illegal. I admitted it was, but explained they'd manipulated me for years and were trying again. I told him my whole revenge plan, fake friendship with Sienna, intel gathering, gala setup. Ethan thought it was elaborate and questioned if it was worth it. Maybe just move on. I tried, I said, but Sienna came back hoping to use me again. They need consequences. He reluctantly agreed to help, but warned. After this, we're done. Clean break. This revenge isn't good for you. I promised this would be the end. One final act of karmic justice. Operation Gold Digger is a terrible name, he added before hanging up. You're playing with fire, he cautioned, but I was ready to burn their lies. For the next few weeks, I played my role perfectly. The successful guy who had moved on completely, the potential new target for Sienna's schemes. I even started mentioning a fake trip I was planning. I've been thinking, I told Sienna over drinks at my place the day before the gala. After tomorrow night, maybe we could take a trip somewhere. Singapore, perhaps? Her eyes widened at the mention of Singapore, the same place where Harper had decided to leave me for Owen. Singapore? Really? Why not? I have some business contacts there I should connect with. We could make a vacation of it. Luxury hotels, city tours. I trailed off, letting her imagination run wild. I'd love that, she stammered. Great, I smiled. It's a plan then. After tomorrow's gala, we'll make arrangements. As she left that night, practically floating on air, I sent a quick text to Ethan. Everything set for tomorrow? His response came back immediately. All systems go. Operation Gold Digger is ready to launch. I slept like a baby that night, dreaming of baseball victories and sweet, sweet karma. The venue for Owen's charity gala screamed compensating for something. The kind of place where the bathroom attendant judges your watch while handing you a towel. I arrived fashionably late, with Sienna on my arm. She'd gone full Hollywood, wearing a dress that probably required its own insurance policy. I kept it simple. Tailored navy suit, crisp white shirt, the fake but convincing watch, and one secret accessory hidden in my jacket pocket, ready to make an entrance. Sienna purred, clutching my arm like I was her winning lottery ticket. After you, I smiled. The moment we entered, I felt eyes turning. Sienna was well known in this circle, but me. I was the plot twist no one saw coming. It took approximately 4.2 seconds for Harper to spot us. She was across the room clinging to Owen, a silver-haired dude trying way too hard to look younger than his 50-plus years. The look on her face was worth every second of planning. Pure shock, followed by confusion, followed by something that looked suspiciously like regret. You're here to ruin me, her eyes accused, but I was just beginning. We glided across the room, stopping to chat with people Sienna knew. She introduced me as her special friend while dropping hints about my incredible success and exclusive investment opportunities. By the time we reached Harper and Owen, half the room was whispering about me. Harper, Owen, Sienna air-kissed both of them. You remember Lucas, of course. Harper looked like she'd seen a ghost. A very well-dressed, suddenly successful ghost. Lucas, she managed. I didn't expect to see you here. Sienna was kind enough to invite me. I smiled, extending my hand to Owen. And I've heard so much about you, Owen. Your reputation precedes you. All good things, I hope. Oh, absolutely, I lied. Harper speaks very highly of your mentorship. Harper shot me a warning look, which I pretended not to notice. So? Owen asked. What line of work are you in these days? Perfect opening. I launched into my pre-prepared spiel about software development consulting and select investments, dropping just enough legitimate industry terms to sound credible while being vague enough that nothing could be fact-checked on the spot. Actually, I added, I just closed a deal with Quantum Dynamics last week. Quantum Dynamics being the biggest competitor to Owen's company, a fact not lost on him, judging by his suddenly tight smile. Impressive, he muttered. If you'll excuse us, I need to make some introductions for Harper. As they walked away, I heard Harper hiss. You didn't tell me he was coming. I Didn't know, Sienna whispered back. Throughout the evening, I worked the room like I was born to it, had meaningful conversations with actual important people, made Sienna feel like the belle of the ball, and, most importantly, positioned myself near the stage where Owen would later make his big announcement. Around 9:30 p.m., Owen clinked his glass for attention. The room hushed as he took the microphone. "Thank you all for coming tonight. This event isn't just about raising money for charity, though we've raised an incredible amount." Polite applause. "It's also about new beginnings. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce someone very special." That was my cue. I slipped away from Sienna with a whispered bathroom excuse and positioned myself near the AV control booth where Ethan had given me access earlier. As Owen continued his speech and called Harper to join him on stage, I pressed a button on my phone. The giant screen that was supposed to show the charity's logo suddenly switched to a different display, a grid of text messages. Very specific text messages from Harper to Sienna. "God, I can't wait to ditch this baseball loser once Owen leaves his wife." From Sienna to Harper. "Just keep pretending for a few more months. Once you're with Owen, you can hook me up with one of his rich friends." From Harper to Sienna. "The idiot actually thinks I care about the Yankees, as if. Just need him to cover rent until Owen makes his move." From Sienna to Harper. "His loft is so sad. All those baseball posters, like dating a teenager." On and on they went. 4 years of mockery, scheming, and gold digging. All meticulously curated for maximum impact. Conversations about upgrading from me to Owen. Discussions of Owen's wife and how to deal with her. Detailed plans about leveraging connections once Harper made it. And then the coup de grace. Conversations from the past month. From Sienna to Harper. "Oh my God, he's loaded now. New job, amazing loft, BMW." From Harper. "Are you serious? After I left?" That's so unfair. From Sienna. "I'm getting close to him. We'll report back." From Harper. "Don't you dare try to steal him now that he's rich." From Sienna. "Why not? You dropped him. Besides, he's taking me to Singapore next week." From Harper. "You bitch. After everything I told you about Singapore with Owen?" The gasps in the room were audible. Harper stood frozen on stage, mouth open in horror. Owen looked confused, then furious as he spotted his wife's name mentioned in several messages. Speaking of his wife, an elegant woman in the front row was now standing, face twisted with rage. Sienna was frantically looking for me, then staring at the screen in dawning comprehension and terror. I stood at the back, watching it all unfold. The beauty of my plan. I didn't have to say a word. They'd done all the work themselves. All those messages were real. Ethan had just helped me access them from the company servers where they'd been sending them during work hours for years. Chaos erupted. Owen's wife stormed the stage. Harper tried to flee but tripped on her expensive dress. Sienna attempted to explain herself to anyone who would listen, which was no one. I slipped out quietly during the mayhem, pausing only to hand the rental watch to the valet with a generous tip. "Rough night?" he asked, eyeing the commotion inside. Actually, I smiled. "Best night I've had in years." They'll never play me again, I thought, my victory bittersweet. The aftermath was spectacular. Owen's wife filed for divorce the next day. Turns out she'd suspected for years but needed proof. With the prenup voided by his infidelity, conveniently captured in those messages, she took him for everything. Harper was fired. Obviously, her reputation in the industry was destroyed. Last I heard, she moved back to her hometown to work at her dad's accounting firm. Sienna tried calling me 52 times that night. I blocked her number on the 53rd attempt. She later sent a handwritten apology letter that I used to start my barbecue. As for me, I kept the job, the loft, and the car. I started dating a woman who genuinely loves baseball. We met at a charity home run derby where I accidentally hit a ball into her coffee. Turns out she was there scouting players for the youth team she coaches. She can name the Yankees' entire starting lineup from the 2009 World Series and gets more fired up about controversial ump calls than I do. It's been different dating someone authentic. Chloe doesn't pretend to like things to impress me. She'll straight up tell me when my game analyses are boring or when I'm being dramatic about an umpire decision. We watch games together every weekend, and she's teaching me proper batting techniques since apparently I've been swinging wrong my whole life. The moral of the story: don't pretend to love something you hate just to land someone. Don't ditch people right before their stock rises, and most importantly, don't mess with a guy who understands that baseball, like revenge, is all about patience, strategy, and knowing exactly when to strike. My triumph is real, but the trust they broke leaves shadows I still navigate. Game over, ladies, game over.